In Isaiah 43, verse 1 and 2, it says, "Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. And through the rivers, thou shalt not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee." Fearlessness. I've made sure not to look even what Eric is going with this presentation because I wanted to make sure it was the Lord who was leading me to speak. And when he said that, it was so funny because what the Lord led me to talk about was fearlessness. Sometimes as women, we sometimes are overcome with fear. Fearful of getting hurt, fearful of our children getting hurt, fearful of what might happen. When Eric told me that he wanted a divorce, if you had known me, you would not have thought she would be fearful, because I would have told you I was afraid of nothing. That night, it hit me when those words came out of his mouth. I was in the kitchen, and when he said that, it was like I turned cold. And it really hit hard that he wanted a divorce. I didn't even think it was possible. From that point on, everything changed in our house. Our children were very young. Connor was still in diapers. Sierra, I don't think she was even 6 quite yet. He was not coming home at night. Everything was just very chaotic, and I became fearful. A person that was fearless became fearful. I had almost like a demonic oppression. I was scared to death of the dark. I was by myself with 2 small children, and I was afraid. None of my family lived by me. They lived in Texas. I didn't want a lot of people to know what was happening. I was ashamed. The devil wants to keep us in shame and fear. That's where he dwells. But God does not. He commands us to be fearless. There's a reason he says, "Fear not, for I am with you, be not dismayed." There's a reason that he promises us to be fearless. I remember one particular night. It was dark. We lived way out in the country. We didn't even have a light that was out. And I became so afraid. And there was like a shadow. This tall shadow was like behind me, and I was shaken. And the Lord brought all of these verses about fear to my mind. And he told me to start memorizing them and claiming them as my own. And I did, out loud. And I believed it. And that spirit left. I didn't want my children to see their mother crying, and I didn't want my children to see their mother living in fear. My parents got a divorce when I was in 8th grade. It affected me, and still does, very devastating to my family. My mom and dad were great parents and still are, but it hurt so deeply. I ran away. I suffered a lot, and I did not forget that. I did not want my children to go through what I went through. So here you have an adult who knows and remembers what it feels like to be that child. So the Lord started showing me, "Sarah, if you trust me, I have a different way. And I'm going to lead you down a path that's not popular. And you're going to learn a lot. And it was very humbling. It was very humbling. The first thing he taught me was, fear not. Truly, fear not, for I've redeemed you. That even though the enemy comes upon you to eat up your flesh, he will stumble and fall. Though a host should encamp against you, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise up against me, in this I will be confident. And all of these verses, he started teaching me. And I determined from that point on that I would live fearlessly. Now, I want you to understand, I have been afraid since then, but I will not act upon that fear. I had the opportunity to go to Haiti, this is later, and the devil tried to make me afraid, and I was like, Lord, I will die on the mission trip at Haiti, but I'm not going to not go because I'm afraid. So when the Lord taught me what it's like to live fearlessly through this, he showed me to believe his word and that he was faithful. And each night I'm trying to share a little bit because people are asking about our story. I'm trying to share a little bit as we go in each section. That was the first lesson. So Eric asked me for a divorce. The Lord delivered me from the spirit of fear. And I started stepping out in faith and believing his word, claiming his promise, and living fearlessly. If you are in this situation to where you're hurting and you feel hopeless and you feel like you're alone, I want you to know the devil is a liar. You are not alone. Everywhere you look, there's the color of green. Green is the color of hope. And God has painted this world green for you to give you hope. And he's also commanded you to be fearless, not because of who you are, but because of who he is. So I want to let you know that you have been redeemed. You can live fearlessly. And as I share more, I just want you to know that I really am truly praying that the hearts, especially of the women, because that's my heart, that you can know that there's power in your prayer and that God loves you and he cares about you. And you are chosen. You are a crown of jewel and life, and he hears you. So don't give up. I know what that feels like.